Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged and delighted to welcome a very accomplished entrepreneur, marketing guru, all the way from Guatemala, Mr. Alejandro Torun. Alejandro, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Very happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Alejandro is the co-founder and CEO of LUUM, a brand accelerator that connects social and environmental impact brands with e-commerce. He's also developed Mima for sustainable textiles and is the founder of Babobab, which is a natural personal care range of products. So Alejandro, let's first talk about LUUM, which is a brand accelerator. Tell me a little bit about this venture and what was your motivation to start it?
Yeah, so LUUM is a company that we call it a brand accelerator. There are e-commerce, as you know, has been changing rapidly. It's continuously changing, and there's a big number of e-commerce accelerators, other brands and companies to expand into the e-commerce space. So we not only do that, but we also work with the brands in helping them share their story in a better way and to have success on e-commerce and find really larger markets, mostly North America and Europe. And we work specifically with mission-driven or purpose-driven brands that are in their own way, each making the world a bit better.
Okay.
And that's what LUUM is doing.
Wonderful. So what are, for my young viewers and listeners, what are social and environmental impact brands? And do give me some examples.
Sure. So LUUM is a social enterprise, which means that we are a for-profit company. We work in the market and with the power of the markets, and we generate profit. However, in the core of our existence is how can we make things better? So impact is a word that can be, it's very broad. In general, it means social positive change.
Okay.
And environmental sustainability. I think those are the two main components. And that's what we look for in the brands we work with. So one is, for example, let's say we work with Wakami, which is a brand from Guatemala that makes jewelry. So they make handmade bracelets, mainly made by over 400 artisan women across the country. So they give these women from training to many different tools, and they create these micro companies that supply Wakami with a fair pay, fair trade certified, B Corporation certified products. That would be, let's say, an example of a social impact brand that we work with. And then another is for Mima, as you mentioned, which is a brand that we developed by ourselves. It's our own brand. It's the only brand that we own or that we developed from scratch at LUUM. It is a brand made by sustainable materials, which is recycled denim and cotton.
Okay.
So it's in the sustainability space. So Mima makes environmentally sustainable products. And then we have many other examples like those too.
Fascinating. And what does LUUM mean? LUUM.
So LUUM, I think the correct pronunciation would be more like LUUM.
Okay.
It's a Mayan word from the northern part of Guatemala, and it means earth.
Okay. Very interesting. So, given the number of different types of impact brands that you're working with, I'd love to get your perspective at what goes into building a successful brand.
So, yeah, first, it's a good question. It's a hard question, but it's a brand is it's a living organism we like to think of.
Yeah.
and it's never finished. It's just something that continuously evolves. And when we're talking about physical products, which is what we work on, that's the space that we work on. We bring products from Central America, from Mexico, from the US, from South America. We bring products towards the larger markets in the world. And it's not the same to develop and launch a product in Guatemala or in Costa Rica and distribute it there than to sell it in Canada or in the UK, for example. So why? Because the consumers or the market will have different preferences and trends. There's going to be a different landscape with different players. So it's all about, I think the main value that a brand has to have is being authentic. So it's being real. It's especially in the space that we work in the impact sector, there's a lot of greenwashing. That's brands that say they're doing stuff, or they kind of do stuff, put some makeup on, and that's it. But in the deep processes, they're not really doing impact. So authenticity, transparency is very important. So how do you tell that story? So then that comes copywriting, writing, and video making, and photography, and of course, creating a product that people actually want and that they love because it's a great product. So innovation is important. So there's all these different aspects to creating a brand. We believe that we work with entrepreneurs. It's one of my favorite parts of my job is working with the entrepreneurs who inspire me and fill us with energy, of course, and their story is an essential part of a brand, right? So
fascinating. Fascinating. So, Alejandro, I've spoken to many entrepreneurs like you from the social sector in India also, who are giving a platform to a lot of individuals from, handicrafts, etc. The question I have for you is, how do you identify a lot of these individuals, and what goes into the process of selecting and deciding that their products are worth taking to the international market?
Yeah, so that's a hard one. And for us, well, LUUM is a part of the Alterna group. So Alterna is a social or impact entrepreneurship incubator, accelerator, training organization. It's an NGO based in Guatemala as well. We work together. We're partner organizations. LUUM's a for-profit and Alterna is not. And Alterna does a lot of the training and works with over 2,000 entrepreneurs to date in Central America and Mexico and Caribbean. So it's an organization that has reached pretty large reaches. There's a big pool of entrepreneurs that have passed through there. So some of our companies come from that organization that come through some program, and then they need to access markets, and then Alterna refers them to us. That's one way. Another is we just created our second Market Shapers, which is a program specifically designed by LUUM and Alterna. This one is just for Mexico. It's just launched last week. Over 200 entrepreneurs applied, 30 were accepted, and hopefully we'll work with some of those long term. And also, I think it's a lot of word of mouth up to now. So we also search. So let's say we find we just started working with a great brand, well, over a year now, but in the US, it's a US brand that's working with us doing supplements, making amazing products called Dr. Barry's Remedies. They make great products made from nature. And so that was a referral from a friend. So in the future, I think that's going to change. And the way we select them is, one, are they innovating? Are their products different? Does the world really need that new product? Or is it just another widget? Two, is the team passionate and driven and working, so three, how much impact do they make now? And how much impact can they generate in the future? We're a lot about the potential of impact. We know it's a long journey. So I think those three main issues. Then there's financing and other stuff that can be easily, not easily, but that can be found in the future.
Fascinating. And you also talk about e-commerce. How do you take a lot of these products out to the market using your e-commerce platform?
So yeah, we started as Amazon sellers. That was our first channel, and that's how we got to being. So Amazon is one of our main channels still. And it's not easy to sell on Amazon, but we have been working on that for a while. We just recently started selling on Walmart.com, which is the fastest growing e-commerce platform outside of Amazon in the US. We work on Etsy, for example. And then a brand has to have, even if you're working in these marketplaces, we love these marketplaces because they have the traffic already, which is the hardest part to get on e-commerce, is how do you make people walk into your store? So if you're in a small kiosk in the middle of a alley, not many people will walk in. But if you're in the first floor of a big shopping mall, then a lot of people will probably come in. So that's kind of what Amazon is. And we also love, but each brand has to have their own home. So they need to have their own store. And that's where we work a lot on direct to consumer. And it's really hard, and it's changing very fast. And it's very big challenges, but so super important for the story of a brand. And so we work mainly with Shopify, which is an incredible platform that has also really changed things in the past years.
And one of the other challenges of Amazon, Alejandro, is that, when you go to a physical shop, you're trying to figure out how to get footfall into the shop. In Amazon, there's no shortage of footfalls or clicks, but how do you find the product, and how do you make your consumer aware that this product is there in the billions of products that are there in the library of Amazon? What are you doing about that?
Yeah, that's the key on Amazon. That's exactly it. You hit it right there. So one is, how do you get discovered? So discoverability is super important, and there's a different ways to do that. The main one is search engine optimization. Amazon is a big search engine. Maybe Amazon and Google, the biggest in the world. And how do people find you? So it's all about the keywords. We do lots and lots and lots of data mining and analytics, and there's different tools that we use. And we have a team that's constantly just, how can we get to those long tail, short, small keywords, or the big ones? So it's a combination of search engine optimization and then paid ads. And pay-per-click ads has grown tremendously, and it's getting more and more competitive and expensive. But so it's more and more important on how to better manage it. And then once you're discovered, how do you make people buy? What's your conversion? How can you make? So that's where a lot of the story goes as well, and the images and the copy and getting all this validation of getting the reviews. And it takes some time to get that initial traction. Once you got those reviews, then you start getting the sales.
Very, very interesting. And what about marketing spends? There's an old line, and that comes from when I was 40 years ago, a young marketer, when I was 21, 22 years old. David Ogilvy, the father of all branding and marketing, had said only 50% of advertising works, but nobody knows which 50%. In the social media platforms, which are moving at the speed of nanoseconds, how do you optimize the amount of money that you are spending on your advertising?
So that's the important part that has happened with digital marketing, is that it's much easier to know which actually does work and which doesn't. And that has been the way, for example, with Facebook ads for a long time, until recently, when Apple came with iOS 14 changes, and now cookies, they can't track you. And now it's so much more difficult to actually know. Now, it used to be laser focused. Now it's more of a shotgun to see. We're going back to how it used to be, at least with Facebook ads. Pay-per-click ads are, for example, on Google or Amazon, they're very easy to know which one's working, which ones are not. So we use a lot of negative keywords. So, for example, I think that's an interesting hack for Amazon sellers. Negative keywords, I think they're underused, which is if people click on let's say a black pen and they don't buy mine, then I'll put that as a negative because I don't want that even to spend money on that, for example. So that's lots of small tricks. And then when you're doing more broad marketing with influencers, or that's going to be a bit harder. But we think about relationship long-term can help a lot as well, and not just put an ad and let's see what happens. It's more of a relationship based. And we also see PR helps a lot. Once we get a magazine to feature one of our products, suddenly we get a spike in sales. What happened? Then we go look for in the internet what's going on, and then sometimes we get featured without even getting noticed. So things like that.
Wonderful. And yet, if you look at the amount of money that you spent on advertising, more and more people are now keeping a large amount of money for social media. And I was reading some statistics that in large parts of the world, for the first time, more than half the advertising is now being spent on social media as compared to television. But the messaging is also getting shorter and shorter. Now you've got to communicate in 10 seconds or 11 seconds or 12 seconds. What are your thoughts on how is communication changing for advertising?
So I think it's changing so fast. And that's one of the things that why something like someone like LUUM exists and we bring value, because things are changing so fast. You need to be focused on that area. And then if you're an entrepreneur creating products and developing them and inventing products and manufacturing, and it's really hard to do all of that and at the same time do logistics and at the same time manage the channels and at the same time be at the forefront of all these changes. And TikTok has definitely been made some incredible changes. And now I think one of the big changes that are starting to already happen and will keep on happening is live commerce. So social commerce is going to be really big. And it's not that I believe it, is that it's in the research everywhere. And someone comes out on TikTok, as you say, 10, 15 seconds. Hey, this product, I love it. And immediately that generates sales on real time. So that's something that didn't happen as much before. You would see an ad on TV. That's really interesting. Then you see it again and again and again and again. So now you remember it. You go to a store a few days later, you buy it. Now you see it in that exact moment, you buy it, and now it's in the same platform that you can buy it. So those are huge changes. And I think those things are just going to keep on happening and changing even more. And then in the younger generations specifically are more and more open to that type of commerce. So it's just who knows what's going to come. I really believe Facebook will reinvent themselves. Now that they get,
and the metaverse is coming. So
that's going to be definitely some new plays. We have not done anything in that space yet, but eventually I think that the people that are working, the brands that are working there, they're going to get a big upside in the near future.
Absolutely. And yet, Alejandro, when you look at it, when the traditional advertising used to be done, you'd find either a sports star or a movie star to advertise. Now there is this new breed of influencers. How are they good or not so good for a brand?
Great question. So I think the influencer world is very broad as well. There's from superstar influencers. It could even be superstars or famous celebrities that are famous outside of social media as well as inside. And then you have these social media stars, and then they have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. And then you have the smaller ones that would have under 100,000, under 50,000, or even 10,000. And so I think a lot of it is about finding people that have values similar to the brands and that really believe in the products, at least in the space that we work in. And make long-term relationships. Even if they have very few followers, they still can generate a lot of validation for a brand. And it's something kind of like what we do on keywords. We don't target initially the big keywords that have the 100,000 searches. We target the ones that have 1,000, and then we work with 100 keywords. So it's more of a long tail game. And I think that at least for us, working with influencers, that's the strategy as well. Work with small influencers that you actually believe. It doesn't feel like it's an ad. It's more someone that you follow because you like their thing, and they talk about these cool products, interesting products, because they believe in them. So then you believe in them. And it's a bit more of a management, administrative hassle, because you need to work with more people. But that it's long. I mean, short term to start, it's more cost effective as well. And it's changing very fast as well.
Yeah, I agree. And my last question to you now, Alejandro, is on the pandemic. It's affected everyone in the world. How has the pandemic impacted you and all your brand owners and your own brands?
So we've been fortunate to be in the e-commerce market, because that's grown tremendously. So we've definitely been surfing that wave. At least in 2020, it was a big spike for us. 2021 as well. But that also came with lots of struggles and challenges. So specifically the supply chain problems that the world is facing, the increased shipping costs that are just it doesn't seem like they're going to end soon. Could be 1 or 2 years, who knows? So the main challenge that we've had on one end, we've grown our sales. It's been great for us, fortunately, to be able to grow and scale. But at the same time, just cash flow wise, for all the brands we work with, you used to need 3 months inventory. Now you need to have at least 6 months, because you don't know how long it's going to take for production to be. So now financing is becoming a very important issue. Overstock will happen in the next 6 to 12 months for many brands. Right now, there's so many products that are out of stock online that the one that has stock is the winner. Just being in stock is having inventory is the best marketing strategy you can have today.
Amazing.
Thanks to all that has happened through the pandemic. And and of course, personal issues, people getting sick, family members, the team, of course, like everywhere in the world, it's been pretty sad in some cases, and as the world, but I think we're overcoming it.
Correct. We're all coming out of it.
And actually, we're going to a first trade show in the history of LUUM. We're going to have 2 brands in a very big show called Expo West, Natural Products Expo West in California. Okay. We got canceled in 2020. We were there already, got canceled a few days before the show. 2 years later, now it's happening in a week. So
wonderful. Well, good luck for the show. I'll look out for any press, etc., that you do put out.
Thank you.
But on that note, Alejandro, thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for speaking to me about LUUM, about the amazing work you're doing to support social and environmental impact brands. Thank you for sharing with me your amazing insights on marketing and building brands and the social media, and how keywords can be used. And I think the term you use is blacklisting some keywords also. I think those are all amazing tips for all our audience. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.